Good evening. Thanks for joining us. For the first time in more than a year, medical abortion services are available once again at 2 Planned Parenthood clinics here in Wisconsin.
As we first alerted you last week, Planned Parenthood halted its services last summer after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, which ended the federal protection of abortion services. Without a federal law in place, some Wisconsin lawmakers insisted a state law from 1849, which outlawed most abortions, took effect after the high court's ruling. A challenge to that Wisconsin law is ongoing. But in July, a Dane County Circuit Court judge ruled the state ban doesn't actually apply to medical abortion procedures. So Planned Parenthood resumed those procedures starting today at 2 clinics in Madison and in Milwaukee.
Brittany Schmidt has been following this announcement since last week. She joins us now in the studio with both sides of the issue. Brittany.
Planned Parenthood clinics in both Milwaukee and Madison are offering medical abortion procedures again. 24 hours after the announcement last week, according to the Associated Press, Milwaukee's clinic booked all its appointments for today. In Madison, security teams kept a close eye on the clinic to ensure staff safety. Pro-life supporters surrounded the Madison East Health Clinic to voice their frustrations.
What has become clear to me is that I am disturbed and really disheartened by the precedents that's being set here today, that the laws of this state are being broken, and blatantly so.
Pro-choice supporters applaud the move. A spokesperson for Planned Parenthood says when it stopped offering medical abortion procedures in the state, its Illinois locations averaged 200 to 250 patients each month.
I think it's really important that they've re-engaged and are going to help people have bodily autonomy and allow the people who need abortions and can't access them otherwise to get them.
Planned Parenthood is operating under the same laws and restrictions it followed prior to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Abortion is banned at 20 weeks. There's a mandatory 24-hour waiting period and required ultrasounds.
We were really deliberate in making sure that we did not resume services before we could commit to providing those consistent and consistent availability. So we do feel confident in our ability to staff those 2 centers moving forward.
Pro-life advocates tell Action 2 News they are concerned. They call Planned Parenthood's actions hasty and illegal and will continue to battle in court.
Well, the only thing I'll say is the rule of law either means something or it doesn't. Because not only is this about protecting our unborn children, this is also about protecting the rule of law in our republic.
The lawsuit against the 1849 law is ongoing and expected to end up in front of the state Supreme Court. I'm Brittany Schmidt for Action 2 News.